Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Savvy Entrepreneur Show. If you're an entrepreneur or a small business person, or you're just thinking about becoming one, this show is just for you. I'm Doris Nagel, your host for the next hour. I'm a crazy entrepreneur myself. I've started or helped start at least 9 different businesses, and I've also counseled lots of startups and small businesses over the past 30 years. I wish I could tell you that I haven't seen mistakes or made mistakes, but that would not be true. I've seen so many and made so many. It's amazing. The show has 2 goals. First, to share helpful information and resources for entrepreneurs and small business people just like you. And second, to inspire you. So if I can help some of you not make some of those mistakes that I've seen or made myself, then I will definitely be happy. And inspiring, well, I found being an entrepreneur or a small business person is often pretty lonely. It's confusing, discouraging, very stressful. And so a lot of times I found inspiration from talking to other entrepreneurs. And so I have guests on the show every week who are willing to share their stories and their expertise. My guest this week is Joe Krueger. He's the president and founder of Inspira Consulting. He has a business consulting practice, and specifically this week, he joins me to talk about branding, an important topic that we don't often spend enough time on, I think. And is your brand what it needs to be? And if it's not, well, what should you do about it? So, Joe, thanks so much for joining me this week. Welcome to the Savvy Entrepreneur Show.
Thank you. Thank you, Doris. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for being here. So, my first question really is just to have you chat for just a minute about your business and what Inspira Consulting does.
So, in Inspira Consultancy, I'm a business coach. And so I help business owners optimize their business and accomplish that by focusing on 3 key areas: time, team, and money, and go through a process where we evaluate the business. We take a look at those 3 areas and then develop plans through a number of tactics and strategies to improve those areas and help that owner improve the performance of their company.
Who are your target clients, Joe? Are they in a specific industry or specific size?
My target client covers pretty much any industry. You know, as far as the business principles themselves, when it comes to sales and marketing or HR, operations, finance, all of those principles apply to any industry. You know, my target client is a business owner, you know, small business. It could be anywhere from 5 employees up to 50 employees. An owner that's really struggling with trying to balance work life and meeting some of those financial objectives that you go into business to reap those rewards.
Yeah. And sometimes it's tough to balance it all. And the challenges change as the company grows, I think. Talk a little bit about your background, just briefly, and your professional journey and how you landed in the realm of business coaching.
Sure. Well, I spent the last 20 years in the C-suite. So I had the opportunity to sit in that leadership role for, 4 different family-owned businesses. I had responsibility for the company and in all aspects of the business. So, that's where my experience comes from in helping a business owner assess their business and help them improve what they're trying to accomplish.
Well, I'm sure it really helps that you've walked in their shoes, not just once, but multiple times. And why did you decide to focus on business coaching? You could obviously probably find jobs continuing to work in the C-suite.
Yeah, that's true. It really comes down to, I think, the one key thing that I've learned is that for me, I get a lot of satisfaction on building teams, growing the organization, helping people grow as individuals. And as I kind of took a step back and looked at, what would be that next journey for me. I felt that if I could help business owners really improve their business, help them, along the way, that was a good opportunity for me.
Yeah. Well, I promise listeners we spend a chunk of the show talking about branding and rebranding and revitalizing the brand and refreshing the brand and all the different things that you can do if your brand needs help. But I think maybe a good place to start is just to say, what really is branding and why is it so important for a business?
Well, the branding is really the value that you're creating for your product or service that you're selling to the market. So the brand speaks to what that is that you're offering for the potential buyer. So from a branding perspective, if it's a product or a service, then what is it that you have that is unique or that you're going to provide for that buyer that they feel has value?
I think a lot of people, when they hear branding, maybe they think about logos or color schemes. But what I hear you saying is branding is a whole lot more than that. It's really about customer expectations, really, right?
Yes, yeah. So what's that important feature or element of that product or service that really resonates with the buyer?
I think that a lot of us get off track, and again, it's easier to focus on, oh, this is a cool logo or these are nice bright colors. But if you don't get I guess for lack of a better description, the value proposition right and figure out your target customers pretty carefully, you can have the nicest looking logo in the world and the best colors. And I'm speaking from personal experience here. And it really won't help your business all that much.
No, that's true. I like to say, what's the wow factor? So as a potential buyer, if I'm evaluating or looking at something, is there a wow factor that really piques an interest? You go, wow, that's kind of cool. So what is it, about that is really appealing? So I like to, sometimes talk about the wow factor or sizzle. I mean, what is that?
Right. The thing that makes the customer say, I think I just might need that. Right.
Yeah, yeah, there's a connection potentially with that customer that's more than just the features of the product, but there's like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's appealing.
Yeah. Well, so how do you know if your branding isn't quite right and you need to do something?
Well, I think one indicator there is like how are you selling through? I mean, how is the product selling? I mean, so now there could be some issues with, your selling process, your channels, performance of sales. But if you have a robust process there, then you may want to take a look at your branding. I mean, what's going on? Why are we not getting the results that would be expected? And
Yeah.
you might start questioning at that point and saying, what's the message? I mean, what are we doing here?
And I was wondering if there's a difference between refreshing your brand or revitalizing it or completely rebranding. Talk about that just briefly.
Yeah, so I believe that, refreshing is compared to revitalizing or rebranding is an opportunity where it could be that you do have a viable product. Um, there's some good activity, but the rebranding might be, yeah, maybe you're tweaking some of the elements of your marketing material, or you're maybe updating, some of the collateral or the message. So rebranding is really updating, or refreshing, I'm sorry, is more about just updating a little bit the existing product. Rebranding is a situation where you may have a product that is out in the market competing, and you perhaps have an opportunity with a newer product at a lower cost point, and so you're kind of rebranding, but then that's going to be a different tactic or different strategy. And revitalizing is a situation where you have an existing product, and what you're doing is you're taking that product and re-energizing or revitalizing it in the market and adding, I want to say you want to add energy to it. So sometimes you
Yeah.
call it re-energizing or revitalizing the product.
Yeah. So I'm envisioning kind of a spectrum almost of maybe a refreshing is the least invasive, maybe even the least expensive. I don't know, I
Right.
guess. But and then revitalizing involves putting quite a bit more energy into it. Rebranding is kind of just ripping the page off the off
Right.
the whiteboard or whatever and just saying we need to kind of take a whole new look at this and maybe come up with a new name, a new color,
Right.
new logo, new messaging, everything, right?
Yes. Yes. So that's almost like a new product. I mean, and
Yeah.
that you're separating, where you don't want to cannibalize potentially an existing product that has viable market value. And so
Yeah,
it's
or
a
you
whole
want to make a big splash. You and I were talking before we started recording about Accenture. I guess I'm dating myself quite a bit because Accenture's been around for a long time
right.
as a consulting firm, but originally they were the consulting arm of Arthur Andersen and they were Arthur Andersen Consulting. And I think in that case, they strategically wanted to make a very sharp break with Arthur Andersen, the old firm that imploded.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah. The whole
for
Enron
that, and so
fiasco.
yeah,
Right.
and so for them, they didn't want anything to do with the Arthur Andersen name, so they decided to create a whole new name and a whole new set of messaging. But I think for all of us out there who have been involved in business, you get a pretty good idea as you start to look at all your collateral on your website and all the goodwill you may have built with customers in the past. If you're going to do a rebrand, you better be darn sure that that's really worth the money, that has a good ROI because it involves a lot and can get pretty expensive, even for small companies, I think.
You're right, because it's like a whole new launch. If you're going to go down that path, then it's like launching a new product. So, from a capital investment standpoint, then you really want to take a look at that and make sure that you have a ROI that's justified.
For sure. You were the chief executive officer of a company called Pony Tools, right? And
Correct.
as part of your time with the company, you did a major revitalization of the brand. Talk about what the state of the brand was. What was Pony Tools about when you first assumed the role of CEO there?
So Pony Tools was a manufacturer of woodworking tools. So tools, clamping tools that were used in the making of furniture or woodworking projects. And Pony Tools was a company that was 110 years old, at the time. It was a fifth generation family owned business. And what was interesting was their main products were the Jorgensen hand clamps and Pony clamps. And the company was founded under the name of Adjustable Clamp Company. And because they started out with what they called hand screws, hand clamps, which is a kind of a unique tool. And so the company was Adjustable Clamp Company, and they had these lines of clamping tools that were extensively used by all of the professionals and really serious craftsmen and artisans and people that did that.
Well, that sounds like a kind of company that serves a fairly specialized and specific group of customers and would be one that people just kind of know because it's been around forever, though, right?
Well, what was interesting was the products were known, the Jorgensen name and the Pony name, but adjustable clamp company didn't really have any market awareness. So products, yes, they had a pretty strong name recognition, in the market with the end users.
So, how did you know that it was time to do something, that you needed to do something?
Yeah, when I assumed that role and spent some time. So one of the first things I did was go out and spend some time with our reps, the channels. We sold through the retail channel, so the big boxes, hardware store, mom and pop hardware stores. There was some industrial channels also that we sold through. So the company was in a position where it wasn't really growing. It had faced some challenges, kind of stagnant.
Why wasn't it growing?
It had reached a place where it had this product that was known in certain circles and had some position out in the market, but it just wasn't growing. Some of it was related again to some of the dynamics in the market itself and what was going on and the changes in the retail channels. But it was this incredible brand that just was stuck.
How did you decide that investing in the branding was the right move? I mean, I guess you could have done a few other things. You could have tried to expand the product line or change the product or other options. But how did you decide that reinvigorating the brand was the right strategy?
Well, it really came from spending time out in the market. As I said earlier, talking to the merchants in those retail channels, the reps. We had our salespeople who were out there in the market, end users, and hearing from them, their experiences. And as I heard that feedback, then what became apparent is that there was some real value with the product and with the brand. And so when we were evaluating, kind of take a look at that, it, in those discussions, it was an opportunity that we could grow that.
Yeah. I, you know, I want to delve a little bit more into the market research piece of it because I think, every business course, y- you know, every webinar that you can listen to that talks about your product says you should do some market research. And I think people hear that and they think, oh my, where am I going to get the money for that? Hiring some big firm to do uh, all kinds of surveys and things like that. But talk about the market research you did and maybe some of the kinds of things people can think about doing that aren't necessarily, yeah, they may take time, but maybe aren't ridiculously expensive to do.
Sure, sure. No, you're exactly right. There's plenty of situations out there, where there's a significant investment in pretty extensive market research, but really our tactic there was getting out um, in front of end users in our distribution channels, getting the feedback and getting the information from them, through our team, through myself, our sales and marketing team, and others, and getting that firsthand. Now you can certainly do qualitative search. There's plenty of resources out there to do that and to accomplish that. But we were able to do that internally, with our team and have that information come back to us to help us evaluate and decide what do we want to do here.
Did you have you developed a set of different questionnaires depending on who you were talking to? I mean, how did you sort through all the different kinds of feedback you were getting?
Yeah, if we didn't have a set of questions, it was more about tell us about your perception. What do you see? What separates Pony and Jorgensen clamps from others? What is, in your opinion, the value there? And
Ah,
why would you buy that? Why are
Right.
you interested in that? Why are you going to buy that? And then we were able to bring that all together and then sit down as a team and see what we learned from that.
Yeah. So you really just more asked a lot of open-ended questions, but I do think
Yeah.
you were very good at listening, and you also, with your marketing team, probably had some pretty well-advised questions that you were asking. Any advice for people as they're doing market research and trying to figure out how to ask the right questions and how to synthesize what they're hearing from customers?
Well, I think it comes down to if you're going to, if you're going to go through that process and the questions, it's like, why is that end user going to buy? What's the important features or benefits? What is driving their buying decision? Why are they going to select this product over that product? What are the important points there as
Yeah,
far as, making that decision and understanding what that is and then using that information.
that's insightful, I think. I know you wrote a really good LinkedIn blog post about some of the things you did with the Pony Tools brand, and you talk about rebranding with purpose. What's that mean to you?
So going through this process, making a decision to do that, then we asked, what is the real purpose here? Why are we going through this? What's driving this? Ultimately, of course, you want to
Tell
move more
more.
product. Yeah, yeah, you want to sell more. You want to
Yeah,
move more product through your channels.
right.
Of course, that's going to be up there towards the top. But understanding why adds to that result. And the purpose was to reconnect and revitalize that presence with the base of users that had been there for so long and helping to bring that product back to light, at the forefront and helping to provide the energy for the product.
Talk about some of the things you did to help revitalize the brand. Maybe a threshold question may be whether everybody in the company was initially on board with the need to revitalize it. I mean, I think one of the things that often happens in companies that have been around for a while was everybody on board with the idea of needing to revitalize the branding?
It was interesting because we had multi-generational ownership, we had multi-generational users, and we did have a handful of even multi-generational employees, people that had been working for the company in some
Yep.
cases 25, 30, 40 years, and who had another generation, a younger generation that had worked in the factory. We made the tools, we produced in Chicago. So it was kind of an interesting dynamic that you had this multi-generational factor going on. And so the people, within the organization from the plant level on up were excited. As we communicated and talked about what we were doing, and we shared along the way, our efforts, our initiative, the things that we were doing. And then when we got into our marketing strategies and promoting that multi-generational message, it really resonated. So not just internally with the company, but then also, with the market
Yeah.
and, with the people out there that were hearing that message.
Talk about some of the kinds of things you did to help revitalize the brand.
Well, a few things we did. Well, number one, I was talking about earlier about adjustable clamp company. And people didn't know who adjustable clamp was. Ironically, 110-year-old company had been around. They knew Jorgensen, they knew Pony. So as we talked to the market, they say, "Hey, we're adjustable clamp company. We have Jorgensen and Pony." And it was kind of funny because they go, "Well, when did you guys buy those brands?" It's like, well, we've always owned the brand. So adjustable clamp had no name recognition. So it was kind of an interesting dynamic. But
Well,
then as we talked about Jorgensen and Pony, it's like, oh yeah, Jorgensen's, Pony. And so we went into more depth there. And we found that Pony resonated more with end users. So then we ended up developing the name of Pony Tools, and we put tools on there so that it gave us some flexibility, in deciding if we wanted to expand beyond just clamping tools.
Mm-hmm.
So tools is it was broader. So, another thing that we were talking about potentially was strategic acquisitions and kind of building a platform. So Pony Tools was, ultimately what we came up with. We did that, and then color schemes. We came up with a new logo,
Oh,
and that really resonated. It had that was kind of interesting because the feedback was it was almost like the Harley Davidson logo. You had that feel where it was that robust, it connected, that the end user, the historically, loyal users, those, the people working in the wood shops and making furniture and building stuff. And so, color schemes, logo, and then, marketing collateral. We did some things proving that. And we developed a campaign that really resonated because back to the multi-generational theme, we built on multi-generational family ownership, multi-generational employees, multi-generational end users. And so we did some advertising and things where you had a grandfather working with their grandchild, even in some cases their daughter,
oh,
in a shop. They got the tools, and it really resonated. So again, back to purpose, what does that look like? And then really connecting with the end users who are seeing that. And they go,
yeah.
oh yeah, yeah.
It seems to me, just listening to you, you're emphasizing we're a company you can trust. We've been around doing this for a long time.
Right,
You know us, your grandfather knew us, your dad knew us, you know us,
right,
your kids are going to know us.
right.
We
Yeah.
stand for the same thing and always have.
Yeah, it was interesting because there was stories about the kids, that next generation, they were getting the clamps, the tools, they were being passed on to the kid from the father or from the grandfather,
Well, right. I was
Yeah,
just thinking one of the challenges with any kind of durable instrument is that they last a long time, the good quality ones. And so you don't need to replace them very often. And that's a tough thing for anyone in that kind of business.
yeah. Well, it was interesting because that was one of my thoughts when I assumed the role. It's like, well, clamping tools. I mean, like, how many clamps could you possibly sell? You're thinking about it.
Right.
And it was funny because always the first answer when you travel around in those circles, you can never have enough clamps.
Okay. Well,
So I think, yeah, I mean, it was really interesting, we chuckle, and like, oh, okay. I think I saw it someplace in a shop. Somebody even had that up on the wall, if I remember right. Like, you can never have enough clamps. So yeah, so there was a real viable market there. And then what we did was, as we were really reaching out to the DIY market, the do-it-yourselfer, the end users that aren't the craftsmen or the artisans,
yeah.
but trying to figure out what to use, then the strategy, again, with the revitalizing, the branding, the new branding and all that was, hey, as a DIYer, here's our product and here's the legacy of this product. And then this is why it's, a better option for you. It's a little bit more money, but here's why you can justify that. So
Right.
back to the legacy of the brand.
Mm-hmm. Did you face any challenges? I mean, you make it sound like, well, you just asked some questions about your customers and you listened to them and created this whole new campaign and a new name, and off you went and rode off into the sunset. Pardon the pun with pony tools.
Yeah. Not really. I mean, it was really interesting dynamic because from a challenge standpoint, because of what we were doing with the revitalization of this iconic brand, the biggest challenge for us, I would say, was just figuring out what that is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and what do we have here? And how do we leverage what we've discovered here? How do you really, really do a good job of promoting that going forward? So I would say that was the biggest challenge, if any, of doing this and doing it right.
Well, I love the story of how it revitalized the employee base too. I think that's very cool. That's kind of a maybe an unintended consequence because obviously your employees first and foremost need to be able to tell the story, right? If they can't coherently tell the story, it's difficult
True.
because they need to be crystal clear on why they're showing up for work each and every day and why their jobs matter.
Exactly. So it was a great opportunity because they could see the energy that we were creating and what was happening with their company.
Yeah.
And there was a woodworking show on WGBH out of Boston, one of the premier programs out there, and it was about woodworking. And so the star of that show, and we partnered with him, and we did some things to promote our tools. And again,
Oh,
he was a master craftsman, a guy just incredible stuff he built, and
right.
he did how to on this show on public television,
Yeah.
and we
Instant
would.
legitimacy to
Yeah, it adds
associate
to
with somebody like
legitimacy,
that.
right?
Yeah.
And then we'd bring them into the factory and walk around in the factory, and so again to add that element of
Fantastic.
employees go, wow, Tommy Mac,
Yeah.
walking around the trade shows with him, and some of the things that we did to really again kind of build that momentum and the energy, and people really got excited about that.
Very cool. Beyond enhanced employee engagement and excitement, what was the end result of your brand revitalization efforts?
Well, what we were able to do was interesting was, one of the major retailers out there, we were able to go in. It basically was fascinating. We revitalized the whole category. So what happened was, and they, our merchants shared, some information with us. The old saying that the tide raises all boats. So
Oh,
the whole
everybody else
can,
started doing it too,
yeah,
huh?
so the whole category. So with our rebranding, our new messaging, our planograms, the color schemes, we had some promotional stuff, the grandfather in the wood shop with his grandkid, and promoting that. And so the whole clamping category raised the results because we had some competitors. Again,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
others. Um, but then we saw a nice uptick in the volume, the revenue, all of those that were outcomes of implementing this revitalization of the brand.
Yeah. So the ROI was probably pretty good, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was very good. It was pretty
Yeah.
good. And even from an investment standpoint, because we did a lot of this, a, a lot of it internally,
Mm-hmm.
back to your point earlier with using outside market research companies and spending a ton of money there, it was really through our efforts of that personal approach, going out and hearing firsthand. Now again, there's certainly a cost there. Our time is money, but from a capital investment standpoint, the nice thing was that we managed that, and so yeah, there was a nice return on that investment. And then there was the intrinsic element, just the energy when you feel good. You get that excitement, and there's that other return,
Yeah.
that I like to call intrinsic.
Yep. And I think it's more difficult in an old line manufacturing company. You're not talking about the latest tech app that everybody's downloading.
Right.
You have to work at it a little harder, I think, when you're in an older line manufacturing business to
Exactly.
generate that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's exactly right. Old line manufacturing, stuff that's been done for decades. It's not as you said, that latest and greatest high tech,
Yeah.
new app. And so it's a little bit of a different
Yeah.
challenge.
But you've proved through this effort that obviously it's possible and well worthwhile to do a good job and invest energy and time and resources. Is there anything you would have done differently looking back?
Um, No, I think it would take a step back and really reflect on what we did. I think we did it right. I mean, so I can't say that there's anything that we would, let's say we would do differently. I think we had a robust process there. There was some learnings along the way that was new for me because I'm not a marketing guy by profession. I'm a C-suite guy that
You're a
has,
marketing guy through trial by fire,
yeah, it's exactly, so
as are a
there's some,
lot of us, by the
yeah,
way.
yeah. Some of that was, learned as we went along. But, when I reflect back and take a look at what we did, I would say that we had a pretty good outcome there. And
Well, it
we
sounds like
did,
it was fun too.
yeah, yeah, and exactly. It was a lot of fun. And when you saw the energy and what was going on, that was the exciting part.
What do you think are the lessons learned from this process, and what should other business people take away from this process, do you think?
Well, I would say if a business is looking to refresh the brand or revitalize the brand, maybe rebrand or whatever, I think you want to, back to what we did, you want to reach out to the customers
Market research,
and
right?
market research. And whether
Yeah.
it's your internal resources or you outsource that. And there's plenty of resources out there that can do that. But you want to reach out to the customers. You want to understand what their hot buttons are, what they're looking for. The other thing is you want to really define your unique selling proposition, or the USP as we call it. What is your competitive advantage? What separates you from your competitors? So with Pony Tools, we had that legacy, we had that history from a unique selling proposition. So what is that? You want to define that. What is your competitive advantage? What's going to give you that edge? And then thirdly, I'd say develop a message that's going to really resonate with the market. As an example with Pony, it was that connection to that multi-generation, and going back to the legacy, the history, that really resonated and really touched the market.
Now I want to circle back to some of the observations you made, how people can use the exercise you went through or the lessons you learned through this in their own business. Maybe they're not in a product business, maybe they offer services, or
Right.
you're talking about your personal branding. How should people approach that with the same discipline?
Well, I think whether it comes to personal branding, if it's you, the person like myself as a business coach, what is that brand, and what am I trying to communicate, whether it's a service, if it's painting business or a plumbing business or an accounting firm, whatever that might be from a service standpoint. I think it's the same principles. I mean, so what is it that I'm offering or my company is offering, my service? What am I providing to that potential customer? And why are they going to engage with me?
I think that's really insightful. And how did your experience with Pony Tools and the brand revitalization you did, how do you think that's influenced your own approach to business consulting?
Well, the same principles, I mean, that apply. So as a business coach, what am I bringing to my clients? What is it that I offer, which is going to help them decide Joe is somebody that I want to engage with and help.
Right.
So it's the same, yeah, again, the same principles of how am I going to help my customer? What is my unique selling proposition? How does that separate me from, there's a lot of business coaches out there.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And it's
yeah,
tough breaking through some of that noise
yeah,
sometimes,
yep, exactly. And back to purpose. We talked about purpose and we branded with purpose,
Mm-hmm.
for Pony Tools. Then that same question, resonates with myself is as I take a step back and say, okay, so what is my purpose, and the process I'd gone through, previously. And what I had arrived at, what it really comes down to is that, my purpose is to really expand human potential and help people accomplish their dreams.
That's very laudable. Who can't relate to that, right?
Yeah. So same principle. And now then the challenge becomes how do you market that? How do you help those customers, potential prospects hear that, understand that?
Yeah. Well, and I guess taking a page from the Pony Tools revitalization, you do some market research, talk to your
Right.
customers and ask them what they value the most or
Right.
what they think your brand is. That'd probably be a pretty interesting for most of us from a personal standpoint, might be kind of eye-opening, I suppose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just about out of time, Joe, but what's one thing you wish more businesses knew about branding and brand revitalization?
When you talk about revitalizing, a brand, refreshing, rebranding, it's not just developing new color schemes, marketing collateral, with new ad copy. It's not that simple. There's more to it than that.
Your customers are your reason for being for all of us in business. And so go back to your customers and really listen to what they have to say, it sounds like.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. How can people get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about your services or maybe about the whole Pony Tools revitalization project or branding or just business improvement in general?
My website is inspiraconsultancy.com. Go to my website and I've got some links on there. You can book a 30-minute strategy, complimentary strategy session. Have the ebook, 6 Silver Bullets, How to Grow Your Business
Ah,
Fast.
good.
You can do a free download on the book. And I also have another tool that you can do basically it's an evaluation, a scorecard of your business in 21 key areas. Complete a scorecard, and then you can take a look at that and then have a conversation and talk about their business.
That
So
sounds like a
yeah,
really valuable tool. So people should go check that out. Joe, I want to thank you for being on the show this week. It was really fun to listen to the story of Pony Tools and talk about branding. It's an
thank you.
important topic for us, and a lot of us probably don't think about it as often as we need to, right?
Correct. That's true.
Again, thanks for being on the show this week. It was great having you.
Well, thank you, Doris. I enjoyed it.
I did too, as well.
Bye.
And
Bye.
thanks to all my listeners. You are the reason I do this. You can find more helpful information and resources on my website. I now have a radio show focus website called thesavvyentrepreneur.org. There's a growing library of blogs and tools and lots of episodes of past shows that are chock full of phenomenal advice with great guests just like Joe Krueger today on my show. So check out that. Check out my YouTube channel, the Savvy Entrepreneur Radio Show. You'll also find there and can download lots of past episodes of the show. And I would love to hear from you. My door's always open for comments, questions, suggestions. You want to be a guest, a great guest, or you just want to shoot the breeze. Whatever it is, email me at dnagel, Nagel, at thesavvyentrepreneur.org. Be sure to join me again next Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time. But until then, I'm Doris Nagel, wishing you happy entrepreneuring.